Hey everyone, welcome to Today's Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about tonight? After 110,000 mixed Steam reviews later, Nexon bluntly puts the first Descendant in the did not work category. Strong launch, no staying power. I guess TNA was not enough to keep this game going. Or at least, I mean, it's still going, but I guess it's not enough to keep the game, players around long enough in the long haul. They finished and left. So anyway, when a game misses the mark, publishers often look for the silver lining, good feedback, or design strengths, for instance, or gloss over the dud with soft language meant to assure shareholders the same way a weighted blanket might ensure an anxious dog. Reassure. Rarely do they literally put that game in a presentation under the category of what did not work, as Nexon recently did with the first Descendant, a third-person looter shooter that has been trending some amount of water since its June 2024 release. Nexon's March 31st capital markets briefly yielding a treasure trove of comments on AI and ARC raiders, as well as stark reflection on the company's recent releases. Let me start with the assessment of what didn't work. Read remarks from the president and CEO, Jung-Hung Lee. Jung-Hung Lee? Yeah, seems like that's how you say it. Dungeon and Fighter Mobile, a new entry in the long-running DNF franchise that's quietly huge in Asia. The DNF fighting game is a really good game, by the way. Is elevated first. Lee says it launched with a terrific momentum in 2024, then lost its way. The retention mechanics weren't strong enough to hold players long-term. Bum, 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 bum. Lee adds, same issue with the first Descendant. Strong launch, no staying power. These are design issues that are not fixed with a patch. They require structural changes to game mechanics. Somewhere in this talk of retention mechanics, you might wonder the value assigned to how fun the game was, but perhaps that gets into the design issues Lee mentions. As ever, Steam figures provide the clearest look into the first Descendant's trajectory. The game is also on PS5 and Xbox Series X, but data for these consoles is scarce apart from user reviews, a 3.97 and 3 stars respectively. The first Descendant has amassed an impressive 110,112 reviews on Steam at the time of the writing, which is April 1st. But with the less impressive 57% average score, perfectly matching its Metacritic score as it happens, SteamDB shows an average of well under 10,000 concurrent players in the past few months, with a 24-hour peak of 4,901. Which is low compared against a July 1st launch peak of 264,860. Population decline is expected and normal, but it's clear the first Descendant hasn't met Nexon's expectations in the long run. The first Descendant is ticking along in some capacity. A small new patch came on April 2nd, and Nexon is still rolling out character and seasonal updates that seem to lean more and more into sex appeal with each passing thumbnail. There's also been a loudly sexy game. This has always been a loudly sexy game, but it does feel like the quality has been amped up over time. So yeah, I mean, we played the first Descendant. It's a fun game, it is, but and it's got its share of TNA in there, tits and ass and all that good stuff. Good eye candy for you. But I think with a lot of these types of games, I think for us, we played it and we pretty much got to the point where we hit the brick wall, right? And when we hit the brick wall, it was kind of like, okay, well, I guess we'll come back when there's more stuff to do, right? Otherwise, at the point where we were at was pretty much just rinse and repeat the same content because we already gotten through all of the story content and everything like that. And it was really just the point of like fighting the same bosses over again, but more extreme difficulties, right? That was really where we were at. And so it was more like, okay, well, we need to wait for more content to come out. But the problem with that is, and that happens with a lot of these games, is you say, okay, well, we'll come back when there's more content, but you never come back, right? Or very rarely do you ever come back. So it's like it's not saying that you didn't like the game, because I think we all enjoyed it for the most part, but it was like we just ran out of content, and then there wasn't enough content coming out. So again, that's one of the problems is you're like, okay, cool, we'll check it out later, and you just never end up checking it out later, right? And that's, I think, not the problem with the first Descendant, but that's also a problem with a lot of these live service games and a lot of these looter shooters, extraction shooters, such as Arc Raiders and stuff, and Marathon and the first Descendant, and games like that. These live service games is people will rush through the content so quickly that they'll burn themselves out on that content, and then they'll move off to something else with the intention of coming back. But the problem is, like in our case, you never end up coming back because you just get invested in other games, or you start playing other things, or another live service pops out and you're like, you're in the middle of burning through the content of that. Right. And so you never go back to that older game because you just don't. Right. And that's just what happens. So you've really got to, I think for these developers, if they want a game that's going to last long, you've got to really, content has just got to come out like nonstop. Like that's the problem with these live service games, is that it has to be a nonstop flow of content. And that's a problem, right? That's really hard for developers to do, or some sort of staying power that keeps people invested for the long term. But it's really hard to keep people invested into a game, especially when recycling the same content until new content comes out, right? You got to have that really strong hook. And a lot of games are hard. It's hard for a lot of games to get that really strong hook for players to remain. Like even Arc Raiders, which is an extraction shooter, it's still doing good, but even its player numbers have dropped considerably, right, since launch. Now it's not, I'm not saying it's like on its way out or anything like that. It still has a considerable amount of players, but I'm just saying like the amount of players it had versus what it has now has dropped significantly. And again, it's one of those things where, Arc Raiders has been pretty good about releasing content, but I think people just burn through that content, and they can only do so many things repetitively so many times before they get burnt out on that. And they want something new and refreshing. And for the first Descendant, like new Descendants are cool and all, but without outright buying the new Descendants, if you want to unlock them in game, which you can do, it takes a lot of work to get the materials to build all the components to make a Descendant, to where it's like you'd rather just spend $20 and buy one, right? Because you don't want to spend all that time, because it's a lot of grinding to get a Descendant. So I don't know. I think these companies really got to look at, that staying power. I just don't think it's there for a lot of these live service games. It's really hard to get them to, what I'm saying is really hard for them to maintain that, I think. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The game's not bad. It's actually much better than I went into, with my thoughts about it going into it, because the game clearly doesn't advertise its plot points in any form or fashion. Doesn't really say this is what this game's about, because it advertises what they're selling. And I don't know how to describe what they're selling without being vulgar. But what the game's really selling is not a game. It's just tediousness for a lonely man. But the game is actually fun. The game really was surprisingly fun. We played it to the end. And character models aside, the characters all were interesting. They had, at least the ones that we played, were interesting. They had different abilities and things like that were, we used well together in our group. And so that was really, really nice to have with a game that you just didn't expect too much substance. And really the game, story-wise, I honestly, it's been so long I couldn't tell you what the story was even about. But I know it wasn't just about the sex appeal. It was more than that. But the sex appeal is probably what gathered more people into it, is what probably got the player base as high as it did. Because a games of service game has to have a hook. Like you said, it has to have that grab, that, oh, man, did you see this? Did you know what it does? That kind of that grab. But most of them don't. And I'll be honest, I knew we were never going to go back, like whatsoever. We just knew it wasn't in the cards, because these kind of games, I don't think they have enough staying power. It's not staying power, longevity thought out, because these games get played so fast and so much that you finish all the content, and then it's another 6 months, before they get any new content out. I don't care if they increase, bust sizes, or, put jiggle physics in the butt cheeks. I don't care. I mean, we have fun playing with those types of games. We have, when Pat's creating a character, that the front and the back are going to match size. And, those are fun. I mean, I would rather look at pretty girls on screen than guys. I mean, it's just me. We always play as chicks. But this game, I knew it wasn't going to last, but it doesn't make it a bad game. The problem is they just had bad timing on it. They had bad roadmap. The roadmap, I think, didn't hit enough pit stops. So, but I think if you haven't played it, you should go check it out, because I think there's so much more content on it now that it'll last you longer than it did when we first played it. So,
yeah, I agree. I mean, since we played it, they probably have introduced quite a bit of content. I know they've introduced quite a bit of different Descendants and some more content. And I know a while back had mentioned to the guys of going back and playing it, because they had added like this whole new section, and we just never.
Yeah.
I re-downloaded it, but we never did. So
no,
but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, they added like, missions and weapons, and obviously outfits,
a whole bunch of stuff. But
I think they added areolas. I'm not really sure, but
they did add butt jiggle physics.
Yes, they did. And not to brag, but if it ain't jelly, it must be jam.
Yeah.
But so it's games like this. This one was a surprise, but also news like this, it's to be expected.
Right. A lot of these live service games are misses in most cases, and it's really hard, I think. I mean, yeah, if a developer is successful with it, they can make a lot of money, but keeping or sustaining a substantial amount of players is the hardest thing to do, right? Yep. And not a lot of games pull it off. Like, I'm really surprised. Like, Diablo Immortal is still, I think it's bigger than Diablo 4, which is not really surprising. Diablo 4 is not that great of a game, but
no.
But for a mobile game, like, I don't know.
I enjoyed Immortal when it first released.
I enjoyed the game too until I hit the paywall. Like, you don't have to buy, but you have to buy, right? Yeah. It's like, you could grind it out, but you're going to have a horrible time.
But I've been playing for 85 hours. I went up 2 levels.
Right. I got 2% of what I need.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
But it was fun because, like, for Immortal, you could play it up to before you got to that point, it was fun. But then once you got to that point where it's like, okay, if I want to advance any further, I'm going to have to like spend money or spend like an ungodly amount of time.
Yeah.
And then that's where it was not fun anymore.
Yeah. And I'm not one of those people personally that hit that paywall. And even if I've enjoyed the game, and I enjoyed Diablo Immortal and I enjoyed this, but there was nothing in it that made me want to go give them more money.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Like, even like, I enjoyed this, and then like even like gotcha games like Genshin Impact or Withering Waves or all those types of games, like I enjoy those too. But again, it's like when you see all the paywalls and the things that would make it more enjoyable, and it's like I don't want to spend any money. Like I don't have to technically to play it, but like in order to really enjoy it, I feel like I would need to, and that's what really, for me personally, that's what really like takes me out of the whole experience, right?
Yeah. Oh God, what was the shooter that we played for so long on PlayStation and PC? The
Helldivers. Yeah.
That game I think had it right. I never felt like I had to buy anything.
Well, it was all cosmetics, right? So you didn't have to.
But no, some of the weapons and stuff you could buy.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were in the
and then
bonds,
and you
or
can
whatever.
unlock things. But it never made me feel like it's just going to be easier to pay for it. It never made that push to the paywall. That's what I liked about that game. I think that game had one, just great fun. Two, the system that they used for the whole pay to play thing never felt forced. And I think I even bought something one time on it just because I didn't want to wait. But we put so much time in that game. Why not? Why not give them that extra $10? Because they've given me so many hours of fun. So that's the way I look at it. But a game like this, or a Diablo Immortal, they don't just push you towards the paywall. They try to lift you up and over it. And it's like, no, you can't do that. No, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, they pretty much put it in your way, and then they say you can still go through it. It's just you got to go through that small hole down there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
I can fit through it, but it'll take a while, a long while. Right. And it's like, that's pretty, or something, some sort of stupid analogy like that. But anyway, yeah. And then a lot of those games are like that. And that's what sucks about it. Like, the first Descendant is a lot of their stuff was cosmetic too. But I mean, like if you wanted, there wasn't really a paywall for it. I mean, if you wanted to have better gear and stuff, that's where it was, but you didn't have to. But like, if you wanted to try out the different Descendants and stuff, you had to either grind a shit ton or buy them. And if you wanted better gear, like souped up gear and stuff like that, you had to grind a shit ton or just buy the parts, right? Which, you could grind it all out, yes, but people just don't have time for that, right? Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't got no time to get no extra bras.
No. Anyway, so I mean, the first Descendant is still around and it's still going, it's still kicking for now. But Shane's right. Like if you haven't played it, they probably got a ton more content. It is a fun game. Ultimately, I thought it was pretty fun for a free to play looter shooter. It's got a story and missions and stuff, and it's good co-op with friends. Like,
yes, but we can make the dumbest game with, as long as it got co-op, we'll make it fun. So
yeah, but we had a good time with it. But anyway, you got anything else you want to add?
Nope. I'm done. That game is dirty and it's immoral, and I can't believe people look at things like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like, subscribe. Let us know down in the comments below if you played the first Descendant, and what do you think of live service games and what their what their problem is. Let us know down in the comments below. But otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.
See ya.